Today's show brought to you in part by our very own Breeders' Cup Premium Guide. We are going to have all kinds of great info here for you folks. We're not talking about some tout sheet. Yes, there will be picks, but there'll also be betting strategies, professional bettor analysis, all kinds of things from a lot of the names you have seen on the In the Money Network over the years, including JK and myself making contributions. Go to inthemoneypodcast.com/BC. You get all the details. There's going to be a little price bump soon, so you may want to get over there this weekend and get it ordered. inthemoneypodcast.com/BC.
Welcome to this weekend's edition of In the Money Players podcast. My name is Spenser. It's not PTF in the chair today. It is me. Have a bunch of special guests ready to come on the show, talking Woodbine with Drew Coatney, Belmont with PTF, and Churchill Downs with Clay Sanders.
Today's show brought to you in part by our friends at Stable Duel. A new breed of gaming is here. I really, really like the Stable Duel app. This is a super fun way to play horses for a controlled cost all day, and you're using your brain in a different way. This is like traditional horse playing meets contests, meets fixed odds betting in a way, since you're buying horses at fixed cost. And then, of course, there's the fantasy aspect of it as well. Check it out. You can get more information at StableDuel.com. Download the Stable Duel app today. We've got games at Golden Gate and Woodbine happening this weekend, and then big stuff for the Breeders' Cup next week. You're going to be hearing much more content about Stable Duel over on the other podcasts on the network. Check it out. Download the Stable Duel app today.
And joining me now to talk late pick 4 from Woodbine, it's Drew Coatney. Drew, how are you today?
Hey, Spenser, I'm doing good. How are you, man?
I'm hanging in there. A couple weeks ago, had you on Redboard Rewind. Glad to see you're still knocking the Woodbine action. Anything good since we last talked?
No. I think I've overcome that tough beat of Theodore B.
Okay.
We'll figure out what the B stands for a little bit later on down the season.
Well, let's get started then. We're starting with race number 8 from Woodbine. It is the State-Bred Overskate 100K 7.5 furlongs on the turf. What did you like in here, Drew?
Yeah, this is a tough one. I really struggled to find where the pace was going to come from. And I think it's important to note, too, 7.5 furlongs, inner turf. It plays a little tricky. And so I ended up, let me pull up the notes here, on, oh my gosh, I don't even know how to pronounce this here. We're going to go with the number 8, Eskimins. I don't know how to pronounce that other than that. So we'll just go with the number 8 here, Eskiminsen. That's the one I like in this spot, purely from a pace play, right? Had to go against March to the Arch, Admiralty Pier, Pink Lloyd, Silent Poet, all of these Grade 1 stakes caliber horses. And today gets a lot lighter of a spot. The time form figures look to project this one on or near the lead. Should be able to sit a cozy stalking trip is my hope. And we'll have enough left in the tank to close and not have to chase down the likes of Silent Poet, March to the Arch, or Pink Lloyd. I do have one other opinion, but I'll toss it to you first. Who did you like in here?
I kind of ended up on the rail. I thought Royal Laser just improving every single race, 74, 75, 76. Now we're up into the mid to high 80s. And just a horse that loves the Woodbine turf course. I like when horses are improving, especially at 5. Usually when the older horses are improving, there's never there is going to be a stopping point, but usually when they're hot, they stay hot for a little bit. And then as soon as they lose 1 or 2 races, you know that the slow decline is slowly going to happen back down the claiming ladder. I love Stein in the irons, 20%. Siatard's a very good trainer. I'm just excited to see what this horse can do turning back in distance.
Yeah, no, that was my other idea too. Down on the rail, Royal Wedding. I'm mixing up horses. But yeah, that was mine as well. I think continues to improve. We can excuse a couple of the other attempts here where there was a little bit of a blunder. But yeah, we're going that way with you as well. Royal Laser number 1 on the rail.
What were your thoughts on the favorite, Not So Quiet, 9-5? There was a big win last time out, but I guess you're not picking them on top. So what didn't you like about this favorite?
Yeah, I just thought, and that's a tough question because you haven't seen the horse go around 2 turns, so that's kind of the old adage: never bet a horse at a short price doing something for the first time, especially. So it just didn't seem like this horse wants all of the distance, and there was a couple that have already been proven commodities at a better price. I mean, heck, even the number 5 Royal Wedding has done a couple good things over this inner turf course, especially when you go back to August 1st. Number 5 Royal Wedding faced off against Ride for the Cause, which we've seen come back and be flattered by that race over and over again. And Court Return, a surprise maiden claimer ranks horse who came out and ran in a couple good graded stakes runs, out closing this one. So when I can see 20-1 and can squint enough to see how this one might fit on the paper and tip into that time form 105 final figure that we're looking for, low 80s for those who are doing buyers, that's where I'm seeking for value. So not so quiet at 7. I'm not so fond of.
I will add one other horse, Dixie's Gamble. That's the 4 horse. I just thought, is the horse going to be good enough to win at the level? I do love the fact that we'd see on the past performances that they did win off a decently long layoff one time already. It's always nice when you can see it on the paper that they can handle that long layoff and you're not doing so much of a guesswork game.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see it.
Let's jump into our next race, race number 9. It's the state-bred Princess Elizabeth for 2-year-old fillies going 101.60 miles on the dirt. What'd you like in here, Drew?
Yeah, and we're waiting for the PPs to bounce up, but I have 2, and I'll start with the long shot that I think is the best value with Emmeline, the 8 on the far wide outside. And I just have a trick note on this one, and we're going to get 20-1. The jockey didn't know what to do. You could almost see, when you're playing that game, when we used to run into people in between doorways and hallways, and you go left, they go right, you go left, they go right, and all of a sudden you guys are playing this dance. That's what this one did out of the gate. Had no idea what to actually do. Very indecisive. Hustled, tapped on brakes, hustled again, and then navigated out wide, ranged up, and then flattened out. Completely excuse that effort. And when you're looking at the likes of Dreamin' of Drew at 7-5, I thought there was no excuse in that event. So now you're going to get even shorter of a price on the day. I think I'm going with the number 8 on the outside. I've got a more logical play, but I'll kick it to you to see if you may pick up on what I'm going for the next one.
For me, I just thought Curlin's Catch was just one that I wanted to end up playing here. I like the maiden win. I like that it was going long. Cassie Hernandez, what can you really do wrong with those connections? And I just think second time out, going into a stakes race, the maiden winner, obviously, it already being 100,000, having the win over at Woodbine. Obviously, I think this horse can be a very, very good contender. And obviously, I think the line will drop from this horse on 3-1, probably more like 2-1, 9-5.
Yeah. No, I like that. I was a little bit against that one, just because there was, in my opinion, limited excuses. And so now you're coming back in a little bit tougher spot with some that are proven form, like the number 1 L Bayern, the 8-1 rail horse that I like. Barnes rolling along pretty nicely in the past week or two. And this should get a pretty good dream setup here. A lot of outside speed drawn. So they're going to have to make their early moves to establish position. So it could be fun watching this one roll down the lane late and try and get up at 8-1 for us too.
I will say too with Curlin's Catch, running second, by the way, not winning. Sorry about that. Just having the nice workout afterwards too. Usually when you see a good race from a young horse and then a solid work right afterwards, usually their form will stay compared to if you see that nice, maybe a maintenance work of 50-2. Sometimes maybe the form edge goes a little bit differently with that one.
Yeah, and let's also make note that British Royalty, Curlin's Catch, who ran behind, looked to be a little special. So don't just gloss over this one. Go back, look at this race on. Actually, just go watch the replay. I mean, the replay is great to watch in and of itself, as British Royalty makes a stunning move against the pace flow. That one might be special. So if Curlin's Catch can come back and flatter this form and dominate here, British Royalty goes on top of everyone's tickets tomorrow. I should say on Sunday at Woodbine. And that horse is actually running. Bear with me for 1 second as I pull up my other analysis. That one will be running in the Coronation Futurity, which we're going to talk about in just a second at the end of this sequence on Saturday.
Quick thought with the favorite Dreaming of, Drew. Coming out of the Natalma Grade 1 for 2-year-olds. It's so hard when you see graded stakes, especially Grade 1s for 2-year-olds, because they're all coming out of maiden races. They're all coming maybe one an allowance. How do you judge those graded stake races after they've been run?
Yeah, you just have to look, right? And I'll just point it to, I forget which Breeders' Cup race. That one's going over there. I take a look at those graded stakes, especially when they're north of the border, and see what ends up happening. Illegal Smiles also running at Churchill soon. I don't know what day, this weekend sometime. So go look that one up. Wesley Ward runner has some good stalking speed and can cruise home. So I just don't see Alda or Legal Smile, another one that has let me down being single to. So, call it a little bit of a bias, but I look at what happened with those runners coming out and how this one projects, and it's 7-5. Again, I just don't get excited about it. Now, Barbara Mitchell's a really good trainer. There's only been 4 runnings, so maybe they get this one right. That's a WinStar Brett. So there's still upside, but at 7-5, I'm willing to wait and see and sit on my hands.
Let's jump into race number 10. A nice claiming 15,000, going 6 furlongs on the dirt. We're kind of back to the basic bread and butter of handicapping. Anything different here, Drew? You going more chalk or more long shots?
Yeah, more long shots. I said there's plenty of presser types in here that should create a nice pace scenario for some longer shots. I went with the old tried and true, the 9-year-old, which I hope to be in. What time is it right now? It's 1 o'clock Chicago time, maybe a couple hours. Number 11, Drink in My Hand. Would love to see this one get home at 10-1. It's been running steady races. Yeah, excuse the 5.5 event. It was a little too short. This closer couldn't get its job done. That's fine. I'll be okay with that. And we'll be wide and avoid all of the riffraff that may happen in these type of events where you see the speed and fade types. And I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've watched a rail type run only to be stymied by a non-finishing effort, speed and fade type. So we'll get the wide trip. Hopefully we get all of 10-1 because I think you're going to have to demand that to get the right price. And I think this one is a great value. I've got a couple other ideas, but let's kick it to you. What are you thinking? You want a drink in your hand here pretty soon?
I do, but not in this race. I'm actually going with the Penn National Shipper Studio B. I just think it's super interesting that McKnight off the long layoff brings this one up to Woodbine. The horse is in good form on the dirt. Why would you ship a horse all the way up there? Not that it's that far, but I just think it's a really interesting spot coming out of those allowance races at Penn National. Usually the stronger races at a weaker track end up being about as good as the claiming races at a major track. So I think this one at a decent price of 9-2 with the 4 plus improving races could make this race very interesting.
Oh, I am against you there, my friend. 180-day layoffs, first-time claim, 27% winning rate over the past 5 years with the sample size of 49, but $1.84 ROI. So I'm thinking, yeah, it's a high hit rate, but that's happening with some really big droppers. Mm-hmm. And I just don't see it happening today. Yeah, maybe you can make an argument that this is a big class drop, but there's so many things at play here. I bet this one's going to be bet down to 2-1 as well, Spenser. That's kind of, I had the same thought when I first ran through this race.
I was trying to figure out a way to try and get past Analyzer, the horse that had been running a bunch of 80 buyers, now is in the 70s and working well. I think people are just going to see the drop and expect this horse to improve. But I think this one, instead of looking for a spot to win, I think that it might be a fire sale in a way from Drexler. I just think that they, when they claimed him back for 25, now they're going to try and get him in for 14. It makes me very nervous taking a horse like that at a short price. So I just tried to find one that I thought might be a little bit interesting. Obviously, number 4, Big League at 4-1 has some good works coming into this race as well.
Yeah. I looked at Big League hard and long as well, and I just said, you know what? There's so much pace pressure, and this speed and fade act is getting old. So I went to my best value play in this race is the 7 Executive Sight, which last 2 races has had nothing to close into. 3 back had a little bit to close into, got the pace flow that this one needed. So you have to ask yourself, is the speed going to heat up in here for this one to collapse? And if so, if you believe that, you better have the number 7 Executive Sight on your tickets, because I think this one has a great shot to win and repeat at probably what will be 15-1, I would guess. The end value just depends on how much the number 8 Martin River, Studio River, and the one you just mentioned, number 4 Big League takes. But again, my top pick is the 11, Drink in My Hand. Let's hope we have a drink in our hand at the end of the race.
Let's move into the final race of the sequence, race number 11. It is a allowance race going 5 furlongs on the turf. What'd you like in here?
Yeah, I went simple on this. Fairy Wren, the number 6, 5-1 in the morning line. I bet we'll get 5. What do you think we're going to get on this one? 5-2?
I'm hoping 5-2. 5-2 is always a solid win bet price. I just think there's a lot of weird horses in there. The 7 Gilletto Amore had a good win 2 back. I think the favorite's an absolute proven loser at this level, and I want nothing to do with Ishiyaya. Maybe that's it.
That sounds good.
So,
and your 5-2 bet price, we can have an argument all day, but I almost went big on attachment rate yesterday in the mud at Churchill at 1-2, and I got to pull back. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And I just realized, wow, I could have at least got a 50% ROI on my investment. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. We're not talking Churchill. We're talking Woodbine. So I went with Fairy Wren. Fairy Wren. I think this one is going to set up perfectly, has faced a couple tough ones. I think the last out had the worst of the trouble. Again, if you want to say, not very good at watching replays, go watch that replay. You'll understand what we're talking about. I think you're going to, if it goes subtly overlooked, maybe we'll get 5-2. I could easily see this one 3-2. I would like to get live into a blind pool, as we say. So I'll be playing the pick 3 or the pick 4 into this one. Probably not banking on waiting for the tote to open here. So Fairy Wren for me on this one. Did you end up landing on the top choice? Because I have one more could talk about too.
I'm with Fairy Wren for pretty much everything that you said. I just like the race 2 back, nice 3rd, solid place finish, and then to not decline that much and just drop into a 70. I think this is kind of the race that she wants to be that she wants to be in with her friends. Lady Kraos is a horse I think might take money. I think would like the cutback, but had a perfect trip last time out, and I think it's going to be a horse that I don't want any short price on. Yeah. And the 10-1 near the rail, the 2 Spun Glass. I've got a good stat for you here. Spun Glass let me pull this up here. Trainers winning 33% clip at Woodbine. Husbands and this trainer as well working together over the 5 years with 15 starts. Trombetta and husbands winning at 40+%. That's a solid.
So when you get a jockey upgrade like that, and if you get a little bit of the East Coast shipping up to Toronto, and the Fairhill works look good and gets the rail, and there's not a lot of pace pressure except for maybe Systematic Risk can put some on Spun Glass. 10-1 might be a gift here for us.
Couldn't agree with you more there. That's all the races I had for you, but you had one you wanted to give a quick little shout out to.
Yeah, let's talk about the Coronation Stakes on Sunday, race 8. It's going to be an interesting race. I think you can get some clues into this race on Saturday's card. We just had talked about a couple runners that are going to go that have already faced off against who I think might become a favorite in British Royalty. So British Royalty just had a beautiful move coming home late, and I don't even want to say the Z word, but like kind of picked off horses like Zenyatta a little bit.
Okay.
Nowhere near the speed, nowhere near the class. So no one come at me and saying, how dare you compare this? But I'm just excited to see, are we going to see another Cheryl Spite type that flattens out and we kind of go, shoot, we thought we had a good one, or are we going to really be surprised? So that's going to be a good one to watch. But my top choice is Steven, drawn just a little bit outside. It is going to be, again, stalking, should be ahead of British Royalty, but behind the likes of Tio Magico and some of the other speeds. And just made a little too hesitant of a ride and have had 2 or 3 more jumps. And that move was made a little earlier. The number 8, Steven, is, instead of recording the 68 buyer, is probably, I would say, in the mid 70s, which is going to tower over the rest of this field here. So if you're going to get 7-2 on Steven, and I think we might, because you have the likes of British Royalty and a couple other favorites, that might play well. So again, look out for Saturday's race to see how British Royalty and Curlin's Catch run. Curlin's Catch is running on Saturday. If that one flatters the form, maybe 6-1 on the number 5 British Royalty isn't bad. But if that one kind of throws in a clunker, the number 8 Steven at 7-2 is a fantastic price in my opinion. Great trip notes on this one, and you can read all of this information over at the Woodbine blog, posting every Saturday and Sunday, the late pick 4. Typically do the morning of. This weekend, we're going to be a day ahead, so we will be posting later tonight those late pick 4s. Check it out on Twitter as well.
Thanks for spending some time with us, Drew. Looking forward to talking to you soon. Good luck this week at Woodbine.
JK and I are happy to be partnering with twinspires.com on a number of different endeavors. We're both doing expert picks over on their site, me for New York, JK for the California racetracks. We're doing the Let Loose podcast together. If you haven't seen those, you want to check those out. We're going to be having plenty of stuff coming down the pike covering Breeders' Cup there as well. And we also want to let you know about a couple of promo offers. New players can sign up using the code GET200 for a $200 new player bonus. You can head to the Twin Spires offer page for all the details on that one. And you can also, in that same spot, opt in for the Churchill Downs bet back promotion this weekend. Hearing elsewhere in the show, great advice about Churchill Downs from Spenser and from Clay Sanders. Maximize your return by taking advantage of that Churchill Downs bet back promotion. Get the info over on the Twin Spires website under the offers tab.
And now I'd like to welcome in my second special guest, PTF. How are you doing, PTF?
I'm great, Spencer. Thanks so much for guest hosting. So much going on with the Breeders' Cup space. I didn't want to give short shrift to those other tracks. I knew you would do an absolutely fantastic job. So here I am from an undisclosed location on the way to the Breeders' Cup.
Let's jump right into it. Race number 6 is the 80K Zagora, going 1.5 miles on the Widener turf course. These marathon races always give me a headache. How about yourself?
No, I like them. I mean, I think it's fun sometimes to be able to do the work of trying to figure out who's going to be benefited from the distance. And I think sometimes specialist distances are a place where you can find horses that don't have the best numbers that win, and sometimes that can lead you to value.
What did you end up as a top pick in this race for yourself?
I put number 2, Muta Makina, on top. I thought would be very well suited for this test based on pedigree and form, and with a barn that's been winning with imports like this for the last 25 years. You know, the weather in New York, where I just left, it has been rain, and more rain. Mm-hmm. I do think there's some opportunity this race comes off. And if it ends up on the main track, I thought maybe that number 7, Lucky Stride, could be the beneficiary. Has some dirt form and a good pedigree to go long on dirt. So those were the 2 numbers I was going to be focusing in on the most. And I did also just want to give a little shout to number 8, Cambalitza, who ran a very strong race at Keeneland last time. I thought closing well to just miss without a particularly good setup. And I thought could hit the board maybe at double figure odds. Where are you here?
I am actually very much against the 2, Christoph and Joel. Not that they didn't help me so much at Saratoga, but the stat I have for the last 5 years, 3 for 22 with North American imports. And the wins for this horse overseas, I know I'm not an overseas specialist, but they just didn't seem like they were at, Deauville and all those other major tracks. I just didn't think that they were at the major tracks over there for France. So I went with the number 1, Bose Bell, 4-1, 3+ 90 buyers, dropping in class, and ran well last year in this race. I think when you can find a horse that can run well in races every single year, they kind of almost point to that race. This is one that I think I'm very interested in. Let's jump ahead to race number 7. It is a state bred N1X allowance going 6.5 on the dirt. What about in here, Pete?
I went with number 2, The Last Ace, as my top pick. Has that big debut run to build off of. And since something clearly went so wrong in the last race as it preceded a layoff, I wasn't going to worry too much about that. And it just looked, they don't have a clock report or anything, but just looking at the workout tab, appears to be working forwardly for the return to the races. I was going to give a little shout to a couple others too. The 7, Troubleshooter. I thought it shown some decent late pace, might be able to come running into the number or more at a price. And I also did want to mention the number 3, Big Thicket. I thought there's a few races in a row where this one might have been on the wrong parts of racetracks, might have a little bit more than what we've seen in the recent run. So I was going to play it 2-7-3, try to play around with those numbers and get through this leg of this pick 5.
For me, I'm going to try and avoid the number 6, Ricken and Big Thicket. To me, they just seem like they're proven losers at the level. Usually when they race 5, 6, 4 times at a level and don't win, it tends to be a second-itis thing, and then they keep being short prices, and I'm very afraid to take those horses when they just can't seem to win. I'm on the number 9, South Africa, back-to-back buyer tops, and the barn's been good so far at this meet. I can't remember the last time I've seen Michelle Nevin above 20% at a meet when it's coming to a close. Usually she gets either off to a hot start and then cools off, or gets a little bit hot at the end of the meet and brings it up to a respectable 15% or so. So this is one that I'm definitely going to be excited to. I like Kendrick on the horse. Been on it for the last 2 races. The win last time out I thought was very good as the favorite. And just when you're looking for a speed horse, I can't think of a better jockey to have in the irons. Let's move into race number 8. It is the $80,000 Awad going 1 mile and 16th on the inner turf. Shawty just seemed to me like a horse off of the class drop in the Pilgrim that could be dangerous. What about you, Pete?
I put number 12, Wooten Asset, on top. I thought this one had kind of a trip in that last race. Might have been best there, and I thought could improve past that rival and all the rest. And another horse I wanted to mention, could be interesting if they do, hopefully this one will stay on, but if it's raining as much as I fear it is, we could end up on the dirt. And I thought number 11, It Can Be Done. It's interesting actually on both surfaces, given the speed that one possesses. So another number I wanted to mention in here. But I think Wooten Asset could be a good thing, should improve this time around.
Another horse I thought might be a little interesting was the number 7, Space Launch. Breeding doesn't say turf being by Bernardini, but the big closing kick was a sub 22, and Christoph obviously putting him first time out on the turf. Very interesting to me. Let's move right along. Race number 9 is the grade 3 Bold Ruler, handicap 7 furlongs on the dirt. What say you here, Pete?
I like Share the Ride. I think it's a real legit class excuse. Finding the better stakes horses last time a little bit too rough, dropping to the right level here. When this one got loose, 2 back, ran a hole in the wind, maybe we could see a repeat of that performance. I also definitely want to have some number 6s on my ticket. Fat Man, a late runner coming here off this long layoff, but this one runs the good race. He can get the job done. And then more as a B horse, I was going to probably include number 5, Majestic Dunhill. I like that. He showed more pace last time and has been working competitively with Breeders' Cup Sprint favorite Vekoma. Just seemed like an obvious contender to include somewhere. How about yourself?
I'm with you with Majestic Dunhill. Solid win last time out in the allowance ranks. For me, it is all about the Fat Man. I just love the Fred Hooper win, first time out for the year in January, and then brought up with a second in the Gulfstream Park Mile. Long layoff, but 34 flat handily that last work. This horse, I think, is ready to fire on all cylinders.
That's a great point about the workout clue there. Maybe I have to upgrade that one a little bit, but I also like the idea of playing those two that I mentioned, Share the Ride and Fat Man, against the field. That you end up with the horse I think will be the best speed and the best closer. Not always a bad way to go in these horizontal exotic sequences.
It wouldn't be an in the money Belmont late pick 5 without a state bred maiden 40,000 going 1 mile on the Widener. How many of these have we handicapped in our lives? What'd you like in here, Pete?
I want you to go first. I'm still struggling a little bit with this race. Maybe something you say will give me some clarity.
It's such a weird race to me. I kind of like the 11 Sweet Sneak, Speed and Fade last time up, but was up close, and that's an old angle from a bunch of handicapping books, specifically James Quinn books, when the horse is within 2.5 in a sprint and dropping in class on the pace. This one might just be interesting from an outside post. Maybe can hang on with a little bit more speed this time out.
I like that idea. You never have to twist my arm to bet George Weaver, who does such a good job. I mean, obviously, if this one comes off, you've got a very live-looking MTO with Miz in the mark. Just the fact that this one would be intended to run on the surface and had the in the money finish last time. Not a horse that I love or anything, but one I'll mention for the record. And there's an interesting AE in here, and it's not going to be fooling anybody at the 5-2 morning line. But I did love the way that She's So Naughty closed into those blue Timeform US fractions. Actually has a decent run on the dirt, showing speed too. So really, either surface, I think you can make an argument that number 14, She's So Naughty, is a regular player, is a real player in this spot. Should she sneak in off the AEs? And I think your point is very strong on Sweet Sneak as well.
I will say She's So Naughty. All I wrote in big caps was the JK angle of closing into blue fractions. So definitely one that I will be hoping to see come in off the AE list as well.
I think he got that from me. Actually, that might not be true. I'm going to claim it is anyway. The heck with him.
Well, I want to appreciate having you on, Pete. I'm glad I could jump in the host chair for 1 week while you're out of your undisclosed location. Glad to talk to you. Hope to talk to you again soon.
You're great, Spencer. Thank you so much, not just for this show, but for all the great work you do on the In the Money Network, and hoping to have you do some more Special Breeders' Cup stuff as well. We'll talk about that when I come up for air at some point.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I don't like to let even one show go by without giving props to our friends, our founding partners at the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation. You can make a donation to support the great work they do, both with finding homes for retired racehorses and also with humans through their Second Chances program. Donate to them, trfinc.org/players. Every little bit helps, and we'll be updating this probably by the time you go to the website to look. But we might have a few bottles of whiskey left too. The In the Money malt whiskey, getting great reviews. So happy people are digging it. And if you want to make enough of a donation, you can maybe get yourself a bottle of that as well while supplies available. So that's something else to do as well. Check it out, trfinc.org/players.
And now I'd like to welcome in my third special guest for this podcast, Clay Sanders of 10 Strike Racing. Clay, how are you today?
I'm doing great today, Spencer. How are you doing?
I'm hanging in there, trying to do double hosting duty this week. Couple podcasts for my Redboard Rewind. Now I'm helping Pete over here. It's been a whirlwind, and we're not even into Breeders' Cup week yet, so I can't wait to see what happens next week.
I bet it's going to be a busy week, that's for sure.
So let's get started. Race number 6 at Churchill is an 80K optional claimer going 1 mile on the dirt. What did you end up liking in here?
So for the pick 5, I always tell everyone when you look at the first race is really important, because if you don't have a strong opinion in the first leg, you might as well just go to the pick 4. So it's about race selection, bet selection. I don't have a strong opinion here, but if I was going to play a pick 5, I would go to my strategy of I need to have a single. And the horse I'm going to go with is probably going to be your favorite in Gold Standard. There's several things to not like about her, which is why I would probably pass on this sequence. But if I was going to play the pick 5, I would single her and just assume that, her 2 races, a 4-year-old, the first one sent her to the bench, and maybe she needed the first one off the bench in September. I don't like that she didn't make the lead that day. She's done her best running up front. But if you look, she's had 2 solid works, 2 back, 59 and 3. Really fast, and I just think she's better than these.
I couldn't agree with you more there, and I love the fact that you said if you don't like the first race, just go into the next betting sequence. That's something I talk about a ton on Redboard Rewind, is that why are you going to force yourself to be 5 or 6 deep in a race and then the 95 to 1 shot wins that you were never going to be able to find anyway with the way you handicap?
No, I totally agree. I mean, I think if you're an action guy and you're going to Saratoga on Saturday and you want to play the 2 pick 5s, it's one thing. But if you're going to try to make money at this game in the long run, it's all about bet selection. If you don't have a good opinion, be okay with going to the pick 4 or the pick 3. You don't have to play the pick 5.
I will give a little bit of a plus towards the number 2, Queen Nakia. I just love Safi Joseph and Tyler Gaffney. After Tyler's been coming into Churchill, kind of gets back with the old school Gulfstream connection. And I know that the races are a little bit weird. 2 back racing at Charlestown, and then the allowance starter allowance at Keeneland last time out, but just slowly improving the buyers and just 380s in a row might be good enough to get it done here.
Oh, I think she could. I thought she hung a little bit against weaker last time, and I'll be honest, these Saffie Joseph horses, I'm glad I hadn't had to bet on many of them. I've been wrong every time. When I'm on him, he loses, then he beats me with horses. I'm just like scratching my head. But I agree, Tyler's riding fantastic. That's probably that, or maybe the 5 with Larry Jones if you're going to spread around. But I did not have a strong opinion there. And I also think it's interesting, which Victoria Oliver horse runs, because if the 1 doesn't run, could Gold Standard get loose? Those are some things you got to look at on race day.
Race number 7 was a optional claimer N2X going 1 3/8 miles on the turf course. I definitely had a better opinion here compared to that first race. What about you, Clay? What'd you like in this race?
So I'm going to go thin here, and I'm going to probably go against what a lot of people like to do. I'm going to play against the Mike Makers going long on the turf. I don't like either one of his. I'm going to go to Chad Brown here, and this horse hung last time, which is a red flag, but I think you get a major rider upgrade going from Javi to Tyler. Like I said earlier, he's riding fantastic. I don't think Javi fit this horse, and this horse has back-to-back fast figs. Maybe you can question, are they really, going a mile and 3/8? How important are turf figs there? But I just have trust that Chad's going to have this one ready to go. If I was going to go with the second horse, counter offer, maybe at a little better price, it might be some off going to on Saturday. They're off the turf today, so there's definitely going to be giving the ground on Saturday. And the one good race the counter offer won was on the softer going on July 17th against Value Engineering. So I'm probably going 8 as an A and 9 as a B.
I definitely like Value Engineering, like you had said, getting the rider change. If you listen to the guys from Trip No Pros, a lot of them are not Javier fans, so
Me either.
So it just when you see 3 straight 90s, the horse is very, very consistent, but the hang is a little bit scary, especially when you're going to see what could be 6 to 5, 7 to 5 price. I kind of like Phantom Currency in here. James Grant gets back and forward, and just the fact that they were out 1.5 miles last time. Brian Lynch can get it done with a turf horse, and just the slow improving buyers and that nice leap last time out when they go from the optional 62 and stretch the horse out. I think that maybe this horse just wants more distance, and I'm not so much worried about the 4th place finish as I am that the nice buyer improvement was there.
Well, I circled this horse, and I like that this horse could be loose. The one thing that gave me pause why I didn't make it a B, and maybe you've talked me into making it a B, if you look down the form, the bad races have been on softer going. The 3 back at against a tough group ran awful, and then in the maiden 30, even though the horse won but was DQ'd, ran a 70 and comes back against tougher and runs 10 points faster on firmer ground. That was my only question, but we certainly don't know what the ground's going to be like on Saturday, but just something to point out.
The other quick note is I think that he just got a better pace upgrade. Obviously, I see blue fractions here with that 80 buyer. So obviously, maybe it was more like a 75 when you think about an ability figure like
that's fair
from Pete's book. Let's jump into the next race. A maiden special weight for 2-year-old fillies going 6 furlong on the dirt. Kind of some interesting horses here. Do you take a first or do you take one with experience?
I'm going with the 2 with experience and try to wrap this race up. I think both of these have some ability. I like the street sense getting back to getting to dirt for Chad Brown with some, ran a pretty solid race, showed speed on the turf. Just think that horse is going to be tough. The horse is working well, and I like the Belmont horse. Second time should be better. He doesn't have him crank first time out. I thought those were the 2. You could probably wrap the race up. The one firster that I would give a look to at a price is the 11 for Philip Bauer. Horse is working well. 5 furlongs out of the gate and a minute flat. They paid $425 for this horse. And Nyquist have come out running. They paid $425. Some things to like there.
One other firster that I'll kind of give a little bit of credence to, not my top pick, but Milana, $5,000 for Firing Line. They paid $164 in the Dan Illman book back in the day. If they paid 12x the price, usually that was one horse that he would end up circling and using in some way. Also, the fact that Florent gets on, and this horse has been sub 48 out of the gate in the morning. This one might have some ability. I'm kind of with you. I liked a lot of the horses with ability. The Leparoux Mott horse, I think it's surprising that they're 26% together. I feel like a lot of people who bash Leparoux don't realize that he is good with some trainers. And I thought Chad going from turf to dirt second start out, I thought was just very interesting and not something we usually see when he brings the horse first time out long, and now we see them cutting back second time out as well.
Yeah, I would probably prefer maybe if this was going a little bit further than 6, but I'm trusting he knows what he's doing. But I agree, that's interesting. And on the Brad Cox horse, we give all of our 2-year-olds to Brad Cox. And one little thing I'll point out here: this is probably a B teamer since it's being trained at Ellis Park. That's where the B team goes. Not that he can't win with the B teamer, but a lot of Brad's horses need a start, so I would fade the 10. But not saying he can't win. She can't win.
Let's jump into race number 9, an optional 150,000 claimer going 1 and 1/16 miles on the dirt. We're starting to get these N3Xs and N4Xs back. It's been nice to see there in the Kentucky circuit.
Oh, absolutely. I love it. This race is fascinating. I've got lots of comments here, so I can't wait to look at this race.
For me, a horse that I just thought was very interesting right off the rip was Endorsed, Corey Lannery, Mott. What a bullet last time out, 47-1, best of 96. And this is a horse that I think when you look at it, ran in the Travers last year. Kieran obviously had to give up the horses now that he's being Saez as jockey agent, and just ran a really solid first race out in the optional 75. Then they ran him in the Westchester, the Met handicap against Vekoma, who we know how good that horse will be in the Breeders' Cup. And then in Kelso against Complexity, I think this horse just is going to find what is a very interesting field, but just a field nonetheless that he can be very dangerous in.
I agree. This is the class horse of the race. The question you got to determine is, are you willing to take what I believe will be a short price on a horse that to me is a little camera shy? And I'm a little biased against this horse. I needed 2 back at Saratoga in that 3 or 4 horse race against Spinoff and Bodie Express. I needed this horse. I had it singled. I would have hit a 20K pick 5. I think I had it 3 or 4 times. So I do have a little bit of bias against this horse. The work 47 is very strong, but I do think this is a race that has some talented horses. He may sit a nice trip, sitting second behind Fact Finding, which, is a really a horse that I normally would like to play against, a horse that freaks on the mud on the front end. Those numbers usually are really inflated. But talk about a horse that likes to win. I mean, he's 2 for 2 on wet. He's 5 for 9 on dirt. Maybe they just figured something out on this horse, but I'm not going to use it as an A, but you always worry going long on a horse that could be loose in a race that, I hope has speed, because I want some horses coming from off of it, but it's an interesting horse.
I think also for those who don't play Delaware, Carol Cedeno was the leading rider there. So I think it's interesting that they go from one leading rider to the next. And for Gaffleon to jump on this horse, shipping in from Delaware, I think shows a lot of intent that this horse might be the good.
I can't disagree at all there.
Let's jump into race number 10, a maiden 50,000.
Well, hold on, can we? I got a couple long shots here. If you give me 1 second.
100%. Go right ahead.
So the horses I want people to use here are the number 7 Al-Khatam for Danny Pites. I think this horse was running in a race it didn't want to be in last time. The ACAC was a 1 turn. But if you go back to the mile 16th, where this horse is 2 for 3, horse ran a winning race. He's 30-1. He's second off the layoff. I really like that horse at a big price. And I also like Captivating Moon. This horse third off the layoff here. I think he's finally finding the right spot. Didn't get a great trip last time. And also Plainsman for Brad Cox. This horse was been moved around, but if you go back and look at these, the races and the good figures were all in his barn. Now he gets back control of that horse. I think that horse might be a little bit forgotten and gets Florent Giroux back.
I think that's always a good angle when you go back down and people are only looking at the first 3 running lines, and there he is, Cox way down there, middle of the page, and people just don't realize that the horse has already been winning in a barn like that. And not that Cox is, a name that people don't know already, but just I think this is a horse that can be very dangerous in this race as well.
Exactly.
Now let us jump into race number 10, a maiden $50,000 claim, 1 and 1/16 miles on the turf course. Kind of those, the races that you almost feel like you have to spread in to be able to hit something. What'd you like in here, Clay?
So, I think one thing I hear when I listen to the Red Board Rewind quite a bit, and you quote a lot of those stats from the books, and this is a race where you look at nobody's run the buyer par. So what do you do here? On one ticket, I'll probably throw all saying, why am I going to take a short price on no horses run here? Might as well see if we can get something crazy to happen. So I will probably do that on one ticket. But on a skinny ticket, based on what I was talking about earlier, where there's going to be some give in the ground, You've heard us talk with JK and Pete a lot about we like Munnings on the slop. But my other angle I like on the turf is I love Kitten's Joy on the soft turf. So if you look at a Kitten's Joy, you got the leading rider, one of the leading trainers, connections that want to win. So maybe they would normally put this horse in a maiden special weight. They're putting in this Kitten for Katie against a group that probably can dominate. So I like the 4. And then the 8 for a price. I think you're getting an upgrade in jockey on Kiss Mo. Uncle Mo is another horse that moves up on the offgoing. This trainer has got good stats, even though they're small samples, maiden special to maiden claimers and maiden claimers overall. I just think at a big price, there's a chance here on this horse. Second time turf.
This race has my single actually for this late sequence. Kitten for Katie is my single. People don't realize when none of the horses with experience have run to the buyer par. Well, there's only one other thing that could possibly happen, and that's a first or just being able to beat a bunch that just don't seem to want to win. You get Tyler Gaffleone, Maker, who is pretty much the king of the turf courses at this point, except for Chad Brown. You just really need to focus on a horse like this, and 5-1, and you're just getting 2 really top connections. This horse will probably end up taking money.
Yeah, I would assume if this horse is the goods is going to win, it's going to go off probably 2-1 based on how weak the connections and the rest of the horses are in this field. But I agree with you. I would definitely single and try to get home and spread in those other races where you have more things that can go on.
Can't wait to see what happens this weekend at Churchill Downs. We're less than 2 weeks away from the Breeders' Cup. Can't wait for that. Thank you so much for coming on, Clay, and spending some time with us.
Enjoyed it.
Wanted to say a special thank you to all my special guests today, PTF, Clay Sanders, Drew Coatney. Special thanks again to the TRF and 10 Strike Racing as well. This show has been a production of In the Money Media. In the Money Media's president is Pierre Thomas Fornatale. Our chief creative officer is Jonathan Kinchin. And our In the Money Media business manager is Drew Coatney. I'm Spencer Luganbuehl, and we will see you next time.